Hey everyone, welcome to 21st Century HR Live. I'm your host, Lars Schmidt. I'd say happy Friday. None of that really matters right now. So happy day that is technically the day before the weekend if you have a weekend. Anyway, we are wrapping up week 2 of 21st Century HR Live. So it has been a blast having these conversations, sharing them with you, bringing your viewer questions into the mix. So today's segment is the one kind of show within a show. It's a recurring weekly show with my friend Craig Fisher. We recap the week in talent and all things work, recruiting, everything else. We also answer your questions. So just as a reminder, it's an interactive show. If you have questions for Craig or myself, wherever you're streaming this, ask your questions. We'll do our best to cover them live on the show. It's also a bit of a loose show. We don't really have an agenda on these office hours sessions. So we're recapping things that stood out to us during the week in kind of all things talent recruiting, and we'll riff on random things as well. So it's a light show. Hopefully it's a bit fun, entertaining, and interactive. So definitely if you have questions, bring them to us. We want to pull you into the show and engage with you. So with that, let me bring on Craig. The Craig Fisher.
Lars, how's it going?
Going well, buddy. How are you?
I am brilliant. It is Friday. I know none of that matters because it could be any day of the week. We just don't know. But I'm glad it's Friday. I thought it was Friday on about Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm glad that all the days end in day. At least that part makes it a little bit easier to kind of maintain continuity, or we don't feel like they're all blending together. So
yeah. And you know what day to drink on that way.
Yeah. So props to the inventor of the calendar. You had the foresight to know that at some point we would all lose track of time in a global pandemic, and for that we are grateful,
right,
sir or ma'am.
So we're doing a weekly sort of new neighbors social distance yard gathering. We did another one last night, and it's the usual mix of people who are eager to get back to work and people who are scared of going out, and standard. It feels very not 50-50 to me. Most people are scared, but there are plenty of people who aren't, and are kind of ready. But I feel like even those who would normally be skeptics are scared these days. And so on the eve of, we're on day 1 of Dallas opening back up. Dallas and Fort Worth area. It's a phased rollout. Movie theaters are supposed to open at 25% capacity, which is insane. And most of the movie theaters have just said, "No, we're good. We're just gonna wait until later, and see what happens." Cinemark, Alamo Drafthouse, the major chains basically all said no.
Dude, I mean, unless you're a drive-in theater. Like, who the hell wants to go to a movie theater? Like, if you have Netflix, if you're streaming, you have like millions of hours of entertainment at your disposal in real time, on demand, like in the comfort of your own home. Like, I don't understand. Movies already were kind of, occasionally you'd want to go to one, but I mean, most people have a pretty decent home set up, and they're going to want to watch, there if they have the opportunity. And now I can't imagine anyone, even people who are stir crazy, the idea of sitting in a confined space for 2 hours, even at 25% capacity, is not that exciting.
Well, it's funny because most of the movies have already been released, right? There's only a couple this year that are coming out. There's Top Gun and there's the new James Bond. That got pushed back to the end of the year. But I would even be interested in going to see in a theater. That being said, I love the theater. I love the theater so much. I've got multiple theaters set up around my house. Like everywhere I go, I can be in a theater, and I'm pretty good at making popcorn. So I can wait, I'm good.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. We'll obviously track as this unfolds. And, especially for those of us in the States, every state, every governor basically is making the call within that state around how they open things back up and what their phases are, and whether they even pay attention to the federal guidelines around milestones you have to hit before opening things up. And then even within those states, there's a degree of jurisdictional difference in terms of, areas within the states, mayors that may have a different approach in one city versus another. So it's going to be really interesting to see, especially for some of these early states and regions like Georgia that are just, opening up pretty heavily.
Yeah.
What the impact is. I think that's going to be a case study for a lot of the other companies or a lot of the other states that are being more conservative and opening things up lately. Like I'm in Virginia. Our governor is, Northam. He's a former doctor. So I think we're under lockdown until June 10th or shelter in place. So, they're being very conservative, which I'm cool with. Right. And I think especially that timeline will certainly give us an opportunity to see, what happens in places like Georgia and Texas, who are beginning to open up more broadly and kind of how that impacts, the rates there.
So it's interesting. Yesterday was our highest death rate to date from coronavirus.
Yeah.
And so the news was, Texas begins to open up on the eve of their highest death rates. And so it's like, great, love it. And it's a county by county thing here.
Yeah.
But everyone's playing along, but it's up to the individual business whether they open up or not. You have to wonder what it costs to operate a movie theater, even at 25%. There's certainly no profit in that.
Right.
Yeah. You and I both got our first pandemic haircuts this week, right? And
Yes,
here all of the salons were very eager to open. And that got pushed to May 17th, I believe.
Yeah.
And so women all over Texas are a little sad. But there's plenty of women, even if they did open up. Jennifer and I said to each other, we're not going there. That's a bad idea. There are sharp instruments and metal and,
and there's chairs and I mean,
right.
the idea of like, so you could get a nice haircut to go back and shelter in place and
exactly.
I just don't, that argument. And, granted, there may be some people that have serious things about their hair and I don't want to get into that because I can't relate to it. And maybe there's justifications that I'm missing, but as I see it, have your hair be a little bit longer, or give yourself a little trim. Nobody's going to a ball anytime soon.
Yeah, I had fun going with long hair for a little while, and you grew your beard out, and there are some fun things you can do.
Yeah,
I think the reality though is, and so I just did a webinar about this yesterday for high-profile staffing here in Dallas on how to look good on video for your Zoom meetings, and even if you're putting out content, things like that. And so there's a little bit of concern, but I think that the reality is these Zoom meetings it's acceptable to be a little more casual than how you normally would. And I think you can still look great if you have good lights like you and I do and nice cameras and, whatever. If you check I think it's on my LinkedIn and my Facebook page, both, there's a link to that webinar and there's also a link to the video that I did on it. And I show all the equipment that you can get for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I think all in to look great, you can be at a cost of about $138 for lights, camera, and a decent microphone. And that's nothing, right? So spend your money on that instead of going to the salon and just slick your hair back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, or a hat, right? Like if you really need to. Don't sleep on lighting. I think if you're doing a lot of video, which all of us are doing a lot more of now, and we probably will be doing for a little while, lighting is really important. So and it's not expensive. You can get cheap sets that just give you a bit of front lighting. Try to backlight directly behind the camera, and it'll illuminate your face evenly. What do you got there?
So these are
you can't just flash that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So these are strip lights, right?
Yeah.
And not stripper lights, just strip lights.
Okay.
You can get them at Home Depot or on Amazon. These are by Bell and Howell. You can see that, Bell and Howell, right? And they're about $20 a piece. And so occasionally Jennifer is leading a webinar or a Zoom meeting for one of her boards or her organization, and she wants my studio here. So I'll go somewhere else with these strip lights, and they work just fine. And vice versa. Sometimes she'll just borrow these. You can take them with you. They fit in your backpack even. So sometimes I take them on the road. They're great. And you and I both have fancy microphones, but I really believe that a clip mic is just as good in most situations. You just clip a $19 microphone to your lapel. That does mean you should be wearing a shirt when you do it, because otherwise there's nothing to clip.
Yeah, shirts are very important, I think, for video meetings and presentations. And a really, really important question. So when JT does her video sessions in your office, does
Mhm.
the poster stay up behind you?
Yes, she's got all the Allegis branding behind her.
Nice. That's
And all
fantastic.
the people that are, she's on the board of North Texas Relocation Professionals. And so they're kind of in the HR space.
Yeah.
And so they all know who I am already anyway. And so they're all like, that's Craig's office. We see him online all the time.
Wait, are
Yeah,
you married to
she
the
gets
Craig
busted.
Fisher?
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah,
She
she gets that a lot, I'm sure.
she did get that, and she told it was Bruce Waller who asked her that after they'd known each other for a few months, and she's like, "Wait," he says, "Wait, are you married to that guy that does all the presentations around town?" And she said, "Yes. Don't ever tell him you asked me that."
Yeah, because I think you do need a little bit more exposure.
Yeah,
I think whatever she can do to help make sure that people, are just, you're on their radar. I think that's really important.
I'm not out there enough, Lars.
See, what you can do is you can do a daily live streaming show, and that'll really boost your visibility. I highly recommend it. Everybody should consider doing it. It's an absolute, a perfect investment of time. All right, let's get back to the world of work, the world of talent. Busy week. One of the things that we do here on Office Hours is, outside of riffing on each other and life in general, is recapping the week in talent. And so, Craig, I want to start with you. Like, when you look back on this week, there's a few headlines, a few initiatives launched. What are some things that stand out to you?
So a couple of things. I posted, I guess Allegis posted a video this week that I did for them, highlighting their coronavirus HR database of resources, which it's really good. And I believe it's covid.allegis.globalsolutions.com or covid19.allegis.globalsolutions.com. If you just go to the AGS homepage, you'll find it. And it's a huge database of resources, and it is including a lot of how do we get back to work resources. So for employers, how to make sure you have a clean environment and how to have follow all the safety rules. So all those guidelines are there. And there is a U.S. labor market insights report there as well that has a ton of up to the minute stuff about how the economy is reacting and how the labor market's reacting, insights for staffing and all kinds of hiring resources there. So go check that out. I also talked to Jerome Tiernick this week. We went live on LinkedIn, and it'll be on the Inside Talent podcast, insidetalent.org, if you want to see it and hear it, about his new book called Hiring Success, which is really a great book. And we talked about how recruiters can kind of reinvent themselves and be change agents in this time where we actually need recruiters most. I know we hear a lot of recruiters are being laid off or furloughed, but the world actually needs you. So go help someone who is struggling to look for a job. I mean, recruiters, we know will get back to work at some point, right? But there are a lot of people who may not be in that situation. So help people out, be, the professional that you are, and be that change agent. Jerome and I also talked about a new initiative that Smart Recruiters is sponsoring, along with Jerry Crispin and some other great folks, called Recruiters Recruiting Recruiters. And you can actually find that at recruitersrecruitingrecruiters.com. And it is basically a job board of only recruiting jobs. And employers and recruiters are urged to go there and check it out and sign up if you are out of work, so that we can populate the database there with information about people who need recruiting jobs. And there are, I think, 225 some employers already on board. And there's a lot of jobs in this database. So go check that out. It's a pretty cool initiative. And they've asked me to be one of the ambassadors. So here I am talking about it. Maren Hogan did the marketing communications for it, and it's pretty good stuff. So check that out, recruitersrecruitingrecruiters.com. Lars, back to you.
I like that segue. That was really nice. I feel like we're on CNN now, where they always get the back to you, Anderson.
That's right.
It's like a great way, especially as a former NPR radio guy. I can appreciate the need for a clean transition in between conversations, and so
yes.
look at us. We're seasoned pros at this point on a pandemic week, whatever it is.
I wish you would go back to NPR. I missed that.
Yeah, I still lots of love for them. But yeah.
So
other than these public radio tattoos that
that's right.
My kids and I got into
it's a gun show
yesterday. So just for you, buddy. So yeah, I think I'm glad you mentioned the recruiters initiatives. Like I think it's been interesting to see. Obviously we're all kind of coming at this from different perspectives, and I think I've seen a lot of the open source efforts kind of scale up and grow, and so I think some of this started, and we even talked about this, I think one of our early office hours where we're like, at the beginning of the pandemic, people were just cobbling stuff together, right? It was all about like speed, and not at all about, elegance and design. Right. It was like, okay, people need this fast. Here's a Google Doc, right? Here's everything. And you saw things like, Google Docs around remote jobs, being published that were curated. The biggest one had over 1,500 jobs. It was curated just by some developer in Europe. It was like, people could probably benefit from this. I'm going to go build it, and took it upon himself.
Yeah, Alan Fleur has a Facebook page, I think, right?
So he has one as well. It's like lots of people have just stepped up and said, let me create this. And I think now we're getting to a point where, obviously we're a little deeper into this. We've had some time to be more thoughtful around kind of what we're building and how we're packaging it. And so it was interesting to see, groups like Smart Recruiters and CXR and Red Branch and, these other kind of, powerhouses in the space, all combine their energies and their efforts towards this initiative. And I think that as we look at the economy for recruiters is probably going to be one of the key indicators on recovery, right? Because I think when this first hit and companies started contracting and laying off, you're looking at those layoff lists. I mean, I curate them on that Google Doc that I manage, and there's typically pretty big sections on recruiters and people ops, on those layoff lists because companies are contracting and they're not putting their recruiters to use, they're redeploying them elsewhere. And so I think as we, as you look at the different indicators in the economy to kind of see where things are picking up, when you start to see that market for recruiters start to strengthen, that will probably be a good indicator. And I want to piggyback on one thing you said around kind of what recruiters can be doing right now, because I think when I look back at the Week in Talent, I had a really interesting episode earlier this week with Jill Macri and Adam Ward from Growth by Design Talent, both seasoned TA leaders from Airbnb and Google, Pinterest, Facebook. So, deep experience in the Valley. And one of the things that they do is they also advise and do training and coaching for recruiting teams. And they raised a point that I'd thought about, but definitely kind of galvanized it for me that, if you're in and this doesn't just apply to recruiting, right? This is, people ops right now is generally pretty busy because there's a lot of stuff going on to kind of keep the machine running. On recruiting, obviously, you're not recruiting in many organizations. You have more capacity. You're not recruiting at the same volume as you used to be, even with a shrunken team. This is the time for you to be looking around, get under the hood of your operations, right? I think especially for startups and high growth companies, the sheer inertia of the need to fill jobs and to, just to fill the engine, feed the beast, whatever, thing you want to talk about. It pulls people, it makes it really difficult to also be able to kind of step back and think about all those projects. So most TA leaders have a laundry list of projects of things that they would love to do whenever they have the bandwidth to do them. Well, now is when you may have some of that time. So, and I think most of you, if you're watching this that are TA leaders, are probably already thinking about this, but be sure, where you can take advantage of the time you have to kind of get under their hood, look at, systems, processes, training, whatever it might be, that's going to have you positioned well on the other side of this. Like, those are definitely things to be thinking about.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Jerome and I discussed. Now would be a great time to investigate changing out that old ATS that has not been performing very well for you, right? That Matt Charney put out a pretty interesting chart of ATS systems and where they sort of fit in the ecosystem on Twitter a couple of days ago. Maybe it was just yesterday. See if you can find that. But if you're going to be investigating upgrading some of your tech stack, now's a really good time to do it. Believe me, the HR tech vendors are there ready to demo for you. And you can get all your people on a call to watch. I mean, this is one of those times where that sort of thing is great. And if you've got recruiters that are sort of on the bench or not as busy as they were before, put them in charge of one of these projects or a piece of one of these projects, because I guarantee you they want the work, they want to be involved with your operations, and they've got the capacity and the knowledge to do it. So think about your tech stack right now, because I think there's probably maybe some deals to be had. Just saying.
Good time to renegotiate, as all of our HR tech friends are rolling their eyes at this episode. I think one of the things that's been interesting, I was, follow a lot of tech CEOs on Twitter, and people from, Aaron Levy from Box and others there's a recurring comment around the amount of, just specifically within IT, the amount of progress and innovation that's happened in the last 2 months has been, more of what was mapped out to happen over the next 2 years. And for me, as I kind of see some of that sentiment, it makes me realize that the world that we built, the world of work, the world of whatever that we built our HR technology and our systems to support is never going to be the same, right? Like the way that we were operating and our organizations operated in January, we're never going back to that exact time.
That's right.
It's going to be something different. It may look like it in some ways. It may mirror it in other ways. In some ways, it's going to be radically different. And so I think this is really important to think about for HR tech vendors in the space right now. It's like you need to be building towards the needs that we have right now, because the needs we have right now are going to more closely mirror the needs that we're going to have in 6, 9, 12 months from now than we did 3 months ago. And that's going to require like blowing up your roadmap in some cases, completely, sunsetting features and functionality that you thought aligned really well with that, that model that we had just 3 months ago, because I don't think we're ever going back to that same place. And so, I'm curious for you, when you think about, I know you do some advisory work with HR tech companies, what advice do you have for them as they're kind of thinking about, what they should be building right now, how they should be thinking about designing products and tools and services, based on our current reality?
So first of all, be a good advisor right now. Okay. If you're an HR tech company, we don't actually know what normal is going to look like yet. Okay. I know employers are developing and have developed their get back to work plans, but I don't think enough employers are looking at the multiple contingencies for what could happen. They're planning to try to get sort of somewhere back to normal. So be a good advisor and help your TA leaders, your customers and prospects understand what the contingencies are and could be. There are so many scenarios. We don't actually know what's going to happen when we try to go back to work, right? We think we have an idea of it, but we haven't seen it yet. If you asked me a year ago, could this be happening, what we're doing right now, I would have said there's no way. So we don't understand, right, yet what exactly is going to happen. We think that this experience gives us the knowledge to know. It does not. So be a good advisor and then build those contingencies into your plans for rolling out your new products or features. Right now is the time to do it. So show your employers and your TA leaders that you have these contingencies in place, thought through, and talk to them about what are you going to do if A, B, or C scenario happens.
Yeah, and we're both tech nerds.
Yeah.
We host the wildly popular Cool Tools podcast that, everybody subscribes to and they watch once a year.
Yeah.
So predictions, okay, asterisk before I even ask this question. Nobody knows what the hell is going to happen. Nobody knows exactly when we're going to be on the other side of this, what that's going to look like, how that's going to impact the world of work. We have ideas, we can make projections. So yes, that's the foundation through which I'm now asking this question. Mm-hmm. Let's make a prediction. When you think about, particularly on the technology side and more specifically on the HR tech side, mm-hmm. What's a piece of technology that this situation is going to create or substantively change that did not exist before this?
Well, okay, I'll give you a scenario. So last year, I helped to develop a total talent platform that basically is a vehicle to plug all of your systems into and understand where all your sources of potential hires could come from, and then jump out and source it. It's called Quantum Work. I'm not trying to sell you anything right now, but you can check it out at quantum.work. I think platforms like that can do a lot of the heavy lifting and administrative tasks that recruiters used to do, and sourcers used to do, are going to start becoming very handy, because I think recruiters right now who are on the bench and might be on the bench for the foreseeable future can go use a platform like that and do sourcing on demand, which companies may need, because, to be honest, companies' budgets are going to be changed, and they may not be in the market for big tech pieces in the next 6 to 12 months. So as we do get back to work, there are going to be hiring needs, but I think a sourcing on demand kind of situation is what we might see.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Although I will, I'm going to deduct a couple points from you because I asked you to create something that does not currently exist, and sourcing on demand does currently exist. So technically, you failed my question.
It does currently exist, but we weren't really doing it before. I mean, we had the service, but we weren't using the total talent platform to do it. So we've got recruiters on the bench right now who are now doing this using our own platform, our own tech. We're not even trying to sell any tech from that. Just a bit of the service to be helpful in situations where, employers have had to contract, but still have some hiring needs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to effectively answer the question that I asked, just so the viewers get like one new piece of technology.
All right. Good luck.
But I'm still going to give you shit about this. So I think a thing that we're going to see is a company. I think one of the first companies that can build a true streaming video platform built specifically for online events is going to be massive. I don't think we're going to be getting back to any size of event at scale in 2020. I just don't see that happening. I hope I'm wrong, because I obviously you and I are active on the speaking front. We have a lot of friends. That's where we get to connect with a lot of our colleagues, and it's something that is a big part of our world and what we do. So I hope I'm wrong. I'm eager to get back out and see friends and learn. But realistically, I just don't see how that can happen with the safeguards necessary, anytime this year. And so events are happening. Jamie Leonard and the Recruiting Events Company, they're doing some awesome digital events. Hung Lee did a great digital event. I'll be doing an event with HR Transform at the top of the hour around mental health. And so they're happening, but we're typically using platforms like Zoom or Crowdcast or other platforms that aren't really built for that. They're streaming tools, but they're not really built around all the things that happen with an event. Having an audience, having a way for people to connect and upvote content and ask questions and make it interactive. Like, I think whoever's the first to build that tool is going to be killing it in this market, because I think that that's something that that the need for that is going to carry on beyond just this particular pandemic. And even if we get on top of this and live events open up more next year, there's still going to be segments of the population until a vaccine is out that are not going to be comfortable going to an event. So I think having that option is huge, and that's something that I haven't heard of any specific examples of tools that are in development. But if you're watching this and you work with that kind of a technology, I think there's a lot of money on the table for a product like that.
Yes, Mark Cuban, we're talking to you if you're listening.
He's an avid viewer, so
he is an avid viewer.
You have a direct line to Mark in this podcast.
I did actually hear, I think some of this technology does exist, Lars, but it's not being used in the way that you say. So I spoke with Maurice from the Staffing Tech Conference yesterday. I'm supposed to be speaking at that this week or next week in Austin. That's not going to happen. We're going to be rolling these sessions out in digital events over the next few weeks and months. So that's where that's pivoting to. And he's using a technology called Grip, which was originally kind of a networking and matching tool, but it has the capability to stream an event over mobile. Okay. And so everything that it does is over mobile, and it then matches you with things that you vote for as good content to be in a private room for 5 minutes with the person who did that piece of content, and then it gives you a break. And then 5 minutes later, you're in another room. So it not only has the streaming capabilities, but also the meeting and networking capabilities that we really go to conferences for. The content, I don't think anyone cares about as much as the ability to see people and connect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I do think there's platforms that can be converted into this, with some tweak. I hope they're thinking about this, because again, I just say that as a huge opportunity both for their business, but I'm not thinking about their business. I'm thinking about opportunity to serve the community
That's
and
right.
what people need. So
yeah, check out Grip. I think they're out of Canada.
Okay. Well, we'll check that out.
Right.
And Craig, man, we're up on time. Office hours goes quickly. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we hope you have a safe weekend. And Craig, I'm going to give you the closing words.
Lars, next time we definitely need to talk about the book that you just got and go through some scenarios of who you would want stroking your hair as, you're on your deathbed.
Yes, we will. That's going to be a cliffhanger. We're going to leave you with that until next Friday. So to just give you something to ponder, and we'll come back next Friday and tell you what that's all about.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, everybody.
You too, buddy. Take care, Craig, and take care, everyone.
Thanks, Lars.